My name is Jeff Wheeler. I'm the current president of the Winchester Rotary Club here in Winchester. And this afternoon, we've got a kind of fun and special show for you, if you will, and certainly a learning experience a little bit with some of our other groups that are involved with the Winchester Rotary. And I wanted to introduce the group, and one starting with Paul Mackenzie, who is the Interact advisor for the Winchester High School Student Interact Club. And Paul has been involved with Rotary and Interact for a number of years at this point, but is the faculty leader, if we will, or advisor for the group this year. And with us this afternoon are the club officers for the Interact Club, and that is Abby Gatto, the president of the club, Olivia Wiley, the vice president of the club, Amanda Loans, the secretary of the club, Ray Chan, the treasurer of the club, and Mika Beemans is the publications or publicity member of the club and officer. And it's wonderful to have all of them here this afternoon and to give you a little bit of an idea of what the Interact Club means to them and with the high school students and also the community. I think it's important to kind of know how much students are really involved with the community and with Rotary. And to give you a little bit of an idea, the Interact Club has been around since about 2002, so close to 18 years. And they are all made up of high school students. It is a community service group that works together with our Winchester Rotary Club on a number of different projects. And they normally meet probably twice or so a month, depending on projects and things that are going on. And they're sort of broken down in a couple of different projects. Some they work on with us as the Rotary Club on bigger projects and events that we do around the community, such as Polar Plunge that some of you may have heard about, which is really focused on polio eradication fundraising kind of an event and program. We're actually, I just saw recently too that we're getting down worldwide to the last two countries where there's still a few cases of polio out there. Afghanistan and Pakistan are the last two out there. So they've been very much, again, involved with some fundraising efforts. Normally we have a polar plunge up at Gloucester off the ocean side of things, and it's a little chilly in February. That will not be held this year. But we may have a creative way of creating our own plunge in town, along with a project that we've got in mind. So you'll hear more about that as we get into the next couple of months. But they've also been involved in the fall with cleaning up and painting and things like that over at the Recreation Center, working with the new director, Nick, who has been fantastic on including them in a lot of different things. And then the food collection and gathering on Saturdays. We've been doing a lot of gathering of food drives and things for the Council of Social Concerns and also the ANCA food pantries here in town. And certainly our Interact Club members have been very much involved with 4 or 5 different projects that we've done. We just had a recent one this past about a weekend ago that really actually brought in a lot of food to both those pantries, which was terrific. The next group of projects that the Interact Club is involved with is more independently organized that the Interact Club themselves get involved with, and there's been 3 or 4 projects that they've worked on, and actually they got a couple that they're working on right now. A bottle and can drive to raise some funds for Shane's Shining Stars at the Boston Children's Hospital. And I wanted to ask Abby just quickly, give us a little bit of additional insight on that particular project. Abby?
Sure. So Shane's Shining Stars is an organization for the Boston Children's Hospital. It was something that was brought to us by our Vice President, Olivia Wiley, who is unfortunately unable to be here today. But she is very close with the family who started this organization. So last year, actually, she brought the organization to the Interact Club and said, what can we do to help them? The money it always goes to the stem cell unit at Boston Children's Hospital. So she felt very strongly that the Interact Club could do something to help the cause. So last year we actually did a toy drive, which was very successful as well. But this year, just with everything going on in the world, we were unable to do that. So we had to get a little more creative with things. I believe it was actually Ray's idea to do a bottle and can drive. So we posted all over social media and got that really well known in town so that people knew to save their bottles and cans. We had 2 dates that we had some drivers go to their houses and pick up those bottles and cans, and then we were able to exchange them for money. We ended up with this drive raising $500, which was an awesome, we exceeded our goal so much. Everyone was so thrilled and thankful to the town and the Interact Club for promoting it so much, so we were able to do that. And as well as the bottle and can drive, there was just, it wasn't a GoFundMe, but a GoFundMe of the sorts to donate to the cause Shane's Shining Stars. And they were actually able to raise $6,500 in total for the stem cell unit at the Boston Children's Hospital. So it was really successful.
Terrific. Thanks, Abby. And other projects that the team's been involved with have also ranged from some of the food drives and gift cards for the Council of Social Concern and also the Anchor Pantry, but also get well cards for patients, I believe, at the Winchester Hospital have also come into play in this past year. And then lastly, a project that I know Paul is working on with the team and gift bags for love for the Winchester Meals on Wheels and Minutemen Wheels recipients, which is actually ongoing as we speak, and getting ready to kick off probably in the next couple of weeks to really get that event involved here locally, since we've been unable. Unfortunately, we're very much involved with Meals on Wheels, and unfortunately been unable to really do that as drivers for Meals on Wheels over the past number of months. And many of the in-person events that have been postponed, unfortunately, the Interact members normally get involved with. We think of Town Day, we think of Pancake Breakfast, we think of Chili Fest in the fall, which is, attracts 400 or 500 families in town, and to some of the best chili around. But that's a wonderful event for the community and for fundraising efforts and things like that. And I know that the team is always involved and has been involved with that over the past years. But I did want to turn it over to and sort of talk with Paula for a second as the team leader and advisor for the group and been involved with this for a number of years. Sort of, how did you get more involved with not only the Winchester Rotary Club, but just get involved with the Interact Club too?
Well, thanks, Jeff. I've been familiar with the Rotary organization through my husband's 30-year membership to a local club. I love what Rotary stands for. I love people, the events in which they raise money through. So when Marnie Walsh, a longtime member of Rotary and Anchor with me, approached me regarding a new opportunity to become a service member, I jumped at the chance. Being a service member, we met once a month as opposed to weekly, and it worked well for a few years. But then I soon realized that I wanted to become more involved. So just recently, this past July, I transferred my membership to full-time member, and now I'm with Interact. The Interact advisory role seemed like a natural progression for me. I work at Winchester High School and I knew the kids, and I took on that responsibility about 3 years ago. It's been so rewarding for me. We embrace the motto, our Rotary philosophy of service above self, and I love seeing my students flourish.
Paula, thank you very much. And now, you've got a fairly large group this year and some great leadership. How have you really sort of encouraged the members as they continue to work with them?
So our Interact philosophy teaches students about leadership skills through service projects, whether it's internationally through the Polar Plunge, the Rise for Hunger, or locally in our own community. We have 4 officers and a publicity person. So we have Abby as our president, Olivia as our vice president, Amanda as our secretary, Ray as our treasurer, and Micah as publicity. I encourage these girls to take a leadership role in at least one project throughout the school year. They often enjoy it and take on more than one. We meet regularly as officers, and we all have a great connection. They've made new friends. They've made connections in our town, and our adult Rotarians really enjoy seeing them on Zoom and hearing about their updates with the projects that they have been working on. So it's been great. I really love the students. It's been very rewarding for me.
Terrific. And I think that one of the things fortunately or unfortunately in our current environment, that it's allowed the students to be involved with a number of our Zoom Thursday meetings previously during the summer and early fall. A number of them also partook in some of those events, our normal lunch events, which has been great as they've gotten more involved with working with the regular Rotarian members in 3 or 4 different projects also has been a wonderful experience, I think, for all of us and hopefully for all of them too. And Abby, let me ask you, being the president this year, a little bit, is sort of how did you initially get involved with Interact?
So that's actually an interesting question. I've never really had to sort of go back and think about how I originally got involved with the Interact Club. But thinking about it, my sophomore year club fair, I was with all my friends and everyone was like, oh, what clubs can we join this year? Sophomore year, you're really getting into high school. And I remember going up to the Interact Club table, and one of our former presidents, obviously she was a senior at the time, was talking so fondly of the Interact Club and just how it's a really tight-knit community and a really good way to be a leader in your community and in the high school in general. So my whole friend group signed up for the club. And that whole year, we sort of went to all the food pantry events and, like you touched on, the town day events. And then when it became the end of my sophomore year, I sort of thought to myself, it'd be so cool to be an officer and sort of have more of a leadership position in the club. So then my junior year, I was actually vice president of the Interact Club, which led me to being president today as a senior.
A second question for you this year, and obviously we've been thrown a little bit of a curveball with the COVID restrictions and our current environment and things like that. What have been some of the challenges that you've faced with your team and your group this year that you guys have been able to adapt to or overcome, if you will?
Right. Yeah. Obviously, with this year, the officers and I knew going in it was going to be very different than the Interact Club has been in past years. Like you and Ms. McKenzie said, we always try to meet as often as possible, either just the officers together to plan or obviously as a whole club. So we got together about the end of August, just over Zoom, and we were like, okay, what can we do to make sure we still get members engaged, even if we can't meet in person, especially with the high school sort of having rules that make sense, saying we can't meet inside the school and just everything like that. So we just decided that for the beginning of the year in the fall, we would try to meet in person as often as we can. So we meet the second Tuesday of every month and then the last Thursday of every month, because obviously as well, the high school has 2 separate cohorts. So we really wanted to make it fair. Cohort A has to come in for the Thursday meetings to school and cohort B has to come in to the Tuesday meetings. So we did that as long as we could to meet in person and sort of in the beginning of the year engage new members. Then obviously as the weather got colder, we sort of realized we were going to have to transition over to Zoom meetings. So those have definitely been tricky, especially because, you know, when you're home, maybe you're like lounging around and then you look at the time and you've missed the meeting. So it is tricky to get members to log on, but we've just been trying to be especially active this year on social media to remind our members about the meetings. I get that's really been our only big challenge. There are other small things like we can't take as many group photos this year because we have to be social distance. We've really adapted to the panorama setting so everyone can be spread out. But yeah, that's sort of the way we've just been trying to navigate things this year.
No, definitely, and I appreciate that because you guys have been very visible on the Winchester residence page and things like that, and social media in general has been incredible as far as just gaining visibility amongst the community and on projects that you've been doing and working on and things like that. So let me open it up to the group a little bit and ask a couple of questions. And and again, Abby, I'll start with you as you think about each one of these. But you know, from your perspective, sort of what have you learned from your experience as a member, but also as a leader in this particular group?
You know, like I said, my sophomore year coming into the club, I knew it was going to be great leadership opportunities, but I was obviously sort of hesitant. It was a new experience for me and my friends as well. My junior year came along and I was finally an officer for the Interact Club. I really realized that I was going to have to step up and make sure we were engaging people to come to our meetings. I think something I learned fairly quickly was how good I felt after an event or a leadership opportunity to be able to help the community. So especially becoming an officer, I decided for myself that was going to be one of my goals, to sort of teach especially new kids in the high school how good helping the community can feel. So just along with the leadership, I've had so many opportunities to, I think, help people realize that.
No, appreciate it. Thank you. And Ray, let me ask you the same question and sort of what you've learned from your experience, both as a member in the Interact group, but also in a leadership role too.
Yeah, adding on to what Avi said, as a leader of the Interact Club, I have learned to really work together with the other officers, making sure we communicate with each other. I learned to communicate with the younger grades, the people below us, and it's also been a fun experience with working with the Rotary members and just everyone around town.
Okay. Amanda, how about yourself?
I think for me is before Interact Club, I wasn't involved really with anything within the school because I don't play a sport within the school. I play a sport outside of the school. So it was really nice for me to be involved in Interact Club and feel like I had friends in the school who were doing the same thing as me and something we could talk about, what happened in Interact today or what Interact is doing. And I actually only joined last year, but after my first year, I was this is definitely something I want to be more involved with in a leadership role. And I think my biggest goal of this year was getting much more people to join, which I think we definitely accomplished. We have a huge group now, and we definitely see a lot of them continuing to come to meetings, which is great. So I think definitely for me, it's been great to kind of inspire people to join the club.
Terrific. Mika, how about yourself, sort of following up on those thoughts?
Yeah, to add on what Amanda said, I also joined just last year. One of my friends, who was actually the president last year, Selena, she encouraged me to join. She was like, hey, I think this would be your thing. This sounds really fun. So I decided to give it a chance. And I really fell in love with the way people communicated and just the whole atmosphere of the club as well. It's a very caring, very warm, very inclusive club. And everyone's just kind of here to have fun and help out the community, which I think is something that really drew me in at first. And naturally, last year I decided to run for leadership and I got publicity manager. So I was able to use social media to really advocate for the club and draw some more members in, which has proved especially helpful for this year.
Terrific. No, I certainly, the importance of both the social media, especially in this environment, and being able to attract additional members as all of you sort of move on to the next step in college and everything else. So very important from that standpoint. Second question I might ask, and again, Abby, going back to you a little bit, would be is sort of how do you feel about as far as making a difference in the community? Is there any examples? You guys have done 4 or 5 different projects already and more to come. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I definitely feel like the Interact Club and even I have made a difference in my community. A really good example of this that I know, Jeff, you touched on a little bit about in the beginning would be how we just cleaned up and painted the recreation center. So when Nick asked for our help with that project, I was very excited because obviously so many young kids, elementary school kids, go there almost every day after school in a typical school year. And I think all of us just felt it was really important for them to have a good environment that was sort of like fun and creative. So it was cool to be able to like paint the walls new fun colors and just clean up like the storage spaces. I think stuff like that makes a really big difference in our community so that like we helped those kids feel more comfortable in a new space.
No, absolutely. And actually, I was just over there with Nick the other day and dropping off your next round of painting that I know you'll all be doing in the next couple of weeks. And you know, I hadn't been over there in a while, and the help that we were able to offer and what Nick's done over there is just for the kids, the younger kids, has just been fantastic. Really has put a fresh face on the building, the classrooms, and everything else. Ray, how about yourself as far as making a difference in the community?
Yeah, whenever Interact does like a drive or helps the rec center, I feel like all the kids like coming together is super cool and shows that the community is coming together. And a good example is when we do the food drive with the Rotary Club on Saturdays. Like we have kids my age that come and help, and then we have the Rotary members, and then we have all the other Winchester people coming and dropping off their foods, and it just shows the whole community coming together.
Yeah, terrific. Amanda?
I have like a story kind of for this one. When my dad and I actually went together to go pick up the cans, we were one of the drivers when we did Shane's Shining Stars. And I remember pulling into Olivia's house to drop the cans off, and I don't think I had ever seen a pile that big, and that was just one weekend. So I think for that reason, like it was so great to see how like all of Winchester really like collaborated with that and helped us. There were so many cans, and we were able to raise such a large amount of money for that group. And I think just like seeing that kind of showed how much like just our club like impacted the community, which then in turn impacted Shane's Shining Stars.
Oh, terrific. And I remember seeing the pictures of those piles, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Mika, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to add on to what Amanda said. We did a food drive this fall. I think it was the first one we did this year. And I just remember standing there, like, I think it was pretty cold out, but all of us were just chatting, having a good time. People were pulling in from the transfer station and dropping off cans. And we had a few people stop by as well who wanted to know what we were doing. And we told them like, oh, we're running a food drive through Interact and this is our goal. And lots of people came and said, oh my God, I'm totally gonna run home and grab some food right now. So we had lots of people like coming back and dropping food off and just, you know, making a difference in the community. And honestly, that was when I really felt like, okay, this is making a difference in the community and people are actually willing to reach out and help, which was a really good feeling.
No, clearly the opportunity, and we'll do a couple more probably as we get into the spring, the food drives over at the Sons of Italy, and clearly gives us a tremendous amount of visibility. And I think you're right. We had numerous people going by to the transfer station and coming back and dropping more food off. So the visibility of that was fantastic. So thank you for that. And then sort of a last question I'll ask the team here is sort of how do you feel the relationships that you've made through the Interact Club? And for some of you, Abby, like yourself, who have been around a little bit longer maybe, and how that might maybe impact the future and going forward and sort of after Winchester High School thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, through Interact Club and Rotary, of course, I've made so many good connections that will either help me like learn how to, I'm only 17, so I'm still learning how to speak to adults and sort of be a person in the community. And I think Interact Club has just really given me good opportunities to do that. Obviously, I've become so close with our advisor, Mrs. Mackenzie, because of the Interact Club. And I think we all feel super comfortable with her, and we know we can always go to her. And then same with Jeff, obviously, I have to work so collaboratively with him and the Rotary Club. I think we can all agree that we feel very comfortable with the Rotary Club because they're so welcoming towards us. I know Jeff touched on this, but over the summer, we went to a few of their luncheons, and it's just a really good way to meet adults in our community here in Winchester. And I know even one of the old Rotarian members helped me get a connection while I'm like applying to colleges. So it's just stuff like that it really pays off to be like helping the community, and you're making friends and just sort of learning how to help your community.
Thank you. Ray, what are your thoughts?
Adding on to what Abby said, I will for sure be like keeping in touch with all the officers and Mrs. Mackenzie for like the rest of my life, because they've been with me for like this whole year, and like even before I was treasurer of Interact Club, and also like Rotary members that I've met throughout the fundraisers and like the drives that we've done. I will for sure keep in touch with like everyone that I've met through Interact and Rotary Club.
Thank you. Amanda?
I think definitely for relationships, I think it was just great this year that we had so many new freshmen, and kind of like helping them realize that like this is how to get involved. And we obviously are seniors now, so we're kind of on our way out, but they're just coming in and learning how to get involved in clubs and kind of take more of a leadership role in their own lives. And I think it's been great, those interactions, and just kind of the club as a whole. I feel like our club is definitely a very welcoming club. We're definitely like friends outside of the club, which I think is really great. And a lot of us spend time like hanging out with people in different grades. So I think that's definitely been great to see that we're not just like a club that hangs out when we're in the club, but we're a club that's also friends outside of like the club realm.
No, great answer. And I would have to sort of expand upon that thought, because if I think of the 60 or so members in the Rotary Club itself, there's a lot of hanging out in other places other than just going to a Rotary lunch meeting. And right now we're not hanging out too much, but certainly there's an awful lot of friendships that are built through the interaction of the Rotary clubs, the events, and things like that. Mika, you want to finish up there? Your last thoughts?
Yeah. I just want to say that the Interact is definitely, I've made tons of friends this year, especially with all the officers. And I also would like how Interact has helped me like connect with multiple generations throughout Winchester. So we have like the older generations through the Rotary Club, and but also getting to know like some of the freshmen and some of the sophomores who are now in the high school for like their first time. And obviously it's not a normal year, but through Interact, I feel like we've kind of gotten to know like both sides of the story. Naturally, as a senior, you're kind of like, okay, like I'm on the verge of like stepping into the real world now. So getting connections with like Rotary members is really nice and definitely useful in the future. But also getting to know some of the freshmen and reminding them like, hey, high school really isn't that bad, and you're going to be just fine, and just it'll be over before you know it. So that's one thing I really liked about Interact this year.
Great thoughts. So thank you again, Abby, and your team and officers, and certainly look forward to working with your mentees next year as the new officers roll in. I think they're in the election process as we speak, and look forward to getting to know all of them, and hopefully they bring as much enthusiasm and energy as all of you had. I'd like to ask Paula just to make some final comments and ideas as far as some things that she heard this afternoon, and make some final comments before I do a wrap up. Paula?
Great, thanks, Jeff. And just wanted to mention, Interact has been so proud to be collaborating with Winchester together. It's a new opportunity for our town to support each other. We had heard that some of our residents were feeling isolated and lonely, and we really wanted to help our residents through this pandemic. So in collaboration with the Jenks, their intergenerational team, the Interact Club, and I will be giving gifts of love to our Minuteman recipients and our Winchester Meals on Wheels recipients for Valentine's Day. I'm really proud of the girls and our students for all that they've done to make this project a huge success. Just one other last thought. These girls and guys, they're caring students, they're kind. It's a great club to make a difference in our community. And the feeling that they get from helping others is what I feel I would love for them to carry with them through their career. So thank you for making it such a special club this year, and thank you for all that you do.
Paula, thank you very much for your comments, and certainly to the team and Abby, under your leadership, the team, and we still got 3 or 4 or 5 months to go and a lot of projects to work on together. So we're looking forward to doing that, as Paula has just highlighted one of the number of projects that will be on our plate here in the next couple of months. But I did want to wrap up and again, thank you to all of you, but also touch on just quickly that former Interact members, as you go from the high school level into the college level and post-college level, Rotary has another level called Rotaract, and we probably have one of the most active Boston Rotaract clubs around. We've actually had the Rotaract president on our Zoom calls previously a couple of months ago, and which was fantastic. But the events and the activities that they are involved with, so it certainly gives an opportunity for our Winchester students and Interact Club members to continue their Rotary effort, and also really continue the philosophy and values that hopefully Rotary and the Interact Club has developed for all of you. And generally that group is probably somewhere between 18, 19 and mid to late 20s. They're involved with, again, a lot of things around the area and depending on where you're actually located. So look forward to hopefully all of you being involved with that, and even some of the college campuses actually have some involvement with Rotary on the campuses too. So a lot of things going on there. Let me just lastly just mention, certainly if anybody would like to inquire more about the Winchester Rotary Club or the Interact Club or Rotaract events and things that we're doing, or get involved with that, our winchesterrotary.org website, and getting onto our website here locally is a wealth of information that if you want to get involved and be more involved with the community, like our Interact Club and Paula have been and talked about today, we'd love to entertain and talk to you at some point in the future. So thank you again for your time and certainly the community efforts that have been put forth.